Longtemps resté dans l'ombre de Seattle, Portland, ville jeune, créative, connaît une expansion frénétique depuis 30 ans. Surnommée The Green City, elle est connue pour être la ville la plus écolo des États-Unis. Une ville hipster, où tu vas manger ton bagel en vélo sur une table en bois, servie par des jeunes tatoués. Portland est aussi réputée pour être une ville d'artistes. Mais la mairie soigne tellement cette image qu'elle subventionne autant qu'elle encadre le street art. Pratique libre, faite de revendications. Le street art perd ainsi de son pouvoir en rentrant dans le domaine public. Et tandis que les rues de Portland pourraient être une toile géante pour les centaines d'artistes, elles sont un terrain de jeu frustrant et policé. Visite de Portland à travers ses murales, publiques et clandestines.
We're the Portland Street Art Alliance. We're a group consists of artists, academics, professionals, people who are just interested in street art in Portland, and we kind of came together out of talking with a lot of artists and realizing that there are a lot of restrictions in Portland with street art.
In Portland, you need to have a permit, some sort of permit, either from the city or from a regional arts council, because many years ago, the city was sued by Clear Channel, the billboard company, and they had a long legal battle, and basically the billboard company said that you need to treat murals like you do signs. And after 10 years of legal battles, they finally had to distinguish between signs and murals and have a permit process for murals. So that's kind of evolved and gotten much better, but still you have to go through some bureaucratic system to get a mural, when in most cities in San Francisco or Seattle, you just need the building owner's permission to paint the mural. But here you have to get some sort of permit from the city to paint, or it's going to get deemed graffiti and painted over. So there's a lot of examples of that happening where people don't get the proper permission and beautiful murals get painted over because they call it graffiti. So yeah. The public in general, when they see something that is without permission from the city or for the building owner, if we were to just tag up that sign, they'll call that graffiti. No matter how artistic it is, they'll use the word street art to distinguish no, that's more artistic, but also to imply that they have permission.
In the United States and abroad, we'll have sort of programs like free walls, or they'll have some of the utility boxes commissioned for street artists, or they'll have stop signs that are sort of a free zone for stickers. So you have examples like that from other cities that we don't have yet, and we're going to try to do that. But the city, as far as we know, is not supporting programs like that.
Miami, I think, is always a great example, where the Wynwood district, it's all warehouses, and artists started to come in and ask business owners, hey, can I paint on your wall? And they said, sure. And so then another person came, and then it's part of what makes that neighborhood, right, is that they are known for their street art and for their murals. The city is super restrictive on it and won't let business owners and the community do what they want within their own neighborhood. People should have a little bit more control and say where they live.
We don't need to have somebody do it for us. We can just make our spaces look much nicer on our own.
There's a lot of young people coming to this city, and they kind of deem it as a creative city because of that. And there are just a lot of artists here.
In the winter time, we kind of hunker down, and that's when a lot of people get creative in whatever they're doing. They'll go in their basements or their garages and make things.
There is some quality here, and it's been growing a lot. And there are some really great murals and spaces for people to paint. The city has this reputation of being this creative city that, everyone thinks, oh, Portland loves art. But as far as street art goes, it's really restrictive, and they have this policy of criminalizing artists. That's everywhere, but here they really do go after artists and try to, if at all possible, get them on felony accounts, which are much stricter penalties.
The graffiti abatement in Portland is much more strict and much bigger than it needs to be. Like Seattle doesn't have, they have one graffiti abatement officer when Portland has two. So like, it's like overkill here, you know, for like the size of city we have a really aggressive graffiti abatement.
You have this restrictive policing of street art is because there's not a lot of crime in Portland. The police aren't worrying about people getting shot and, you know, robbed all the time. So what else do they have to do but go after some guy who put a sticker on a street sign, you know?
We adhere to this idea of like broken windows theory. It was like this theory that these really conservative guys came up with back in the 60s to say that like if you don't control everything in a public space and deal with all these minor little offenses like public drunkenness or trash on the streets or graffiti, it makes this idea that the city's not in control of the neighborhood. They think, you know, that all graffiti has to do with a gang. You know, even like you'll hear people in Portland say like, you know, these things, these stickers and stuff are gang related, you know, and that's why we have to deal with it. In other countries, they don't have those notions about it as much as we do. A lot of people we've heard like have left Portland because they're so restrictive. So like you're losing out on that creative potential. You know, those people could be contributing to the city in so many other ways. And just because we have a restrictive climate to that sort of stuff, they leave. So it's counterproductive.
I think they give out something like $40,000 a year to people to help them paint murals. When you get that kind of financial support from the Arts Council, you then that mural becomes part of the city's public art. I mean, that's part of the history of it, right? Is that you're going out and you're taking back the street in some way. We don't want to make all street art legal. I mean, maybe yes, because it would be awesome. It would be beautiful. You'd see art everywhere, but it does, loses its power.
Yeah.
Right.
Loses a lot of its power. I mean, if you're trying to argue against the system, like the government or something, you know, like you're not going to ask permission for them to do something that is against them, you know, like they're not going to be okay with that. You know, in some ways, like graffiti and street art needs to always stay illegal. Like we're not asking the city to legalize it necessarily. We're just looking for a little leeway, a little like, I'm going to ignore that part. We can keep this part clean, but like we'll leave certain parts alone and like let the community have control over those spaces.